So I wanted to reach out to people that had a story to share and a story that would impact the world. The goal of my book is for my readers to read it and be encouraged to make a tangible difference, whether it's profound or subtle. And the stories that they bring to the forefront are things that are meant to give us that level of introspection and say, can I make a difference in this part of my life or the world? So that's what I was looking for.
Leadership Story Talks, where we discuss the practices that engage, motivate, develop, retain, and attract people to businesses. We'll give you principles and tools based on real-world stories to leverage listening and storytelling to become a better leader and management professional. Leadership Story Talks is produced by Narrative, a company that focuses on personal storytelling for business.
Welcome to Leadership Story Talks. I'm Jerome Deroy, CEO of Narrative.
And I'm Julienne B. Ryan, and it's great to be here as always.
Yes, absolutely. Good to see you again. And before we move on to introducing our guest, I want to remind our listeners to subscribe to the podcast wherever you find your podcasts, leave a review, and also check out our YouTube channel in this episode's notes, as well as narrative.com, narrativ.com/podcast, where you can find all of our previous episodes. So today I'm very excited to introduce Kelly Markey, who is an 8-time international best-selling author. Her book, Life of Jayandra, won an award for Top Book of the Year 2024 for suicide awareness. It will showcase on a New York City Times Square billboard on September 6, 2024. Kelly is a passionate advocate for social justice and equality. She works tirelessly to raise awareness about racism and discrimination. Kelly has been featured on numerous radio stations, newspapers, podcasts, multiple television channels, and numerous cover features on magazines around the world. She's the CEO and founder of Markey Writing Academy and Beacon of Hope Mission. Markey Writing Academy and Beacon of Hope are dedicated to uplifting narratives and empowering voices to inspire positive social change. They believe in the transformative power of stories to foster empathy, understanding, and action. And of course, we know Kelly through our collaboration in writing the collection of stories featured in the book, Echoes of Humanity. And I know, Jules, you have a few things to say about that relationship as well.
Yes, we are so excited for Kelly and for this work and friendship, personal friendship now. And what I love about meeting Kelly is our actions really mirror what we teach in our sessions independently of each other. And it's about being curious, reaching out to connect with somebody, collaborating, and building community. So I hope that gets you a little bit curious about the book and all the backstories we're going to start to share of how Kelly had a vision and what has transpired since we first met last year. So thank you. It's a pleasure to see you here with us, and can't say enough good things about this.
Yeah, and welcome, Kelly, to the show. It's fantastic to have you here.
Hello, everyone. It's a delight and honor to be here again with you, Jerome and Julienne. And I'm looking forward to, continuing this journey from where we started. And yeah, let's see where we go.
Yeah. Well, how about we start with the beginning, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about the origin of this particular book, because I know you've written multiple books and you also have this writing academy, and that's part of it. Yes, exactly. Now you're showing us Echoes of Humanity, so yeah, could you tell us a little bit about the genesis of this book? How did that start?
Certainly. So, yes, I am the founder of Markey Writing Academy, basically bringing the unheard voices to our platform and giving people the opportunity to share their lived experience. And I've had the honor of meeting both you and Julienne through your podcast and the Narrative platform. So after I've had a few sessions with the pair of you, I felt compelled from our conversation and our session to actually bring this to a audience where we could use our stories and lived experience to instigate change. That's where the idea was formulated. And I reached out to authors around the world in my network. And yeah, there were amazing stories that were unheard, plights that we are not aware of, and injustice that most of us, I guess, brush off and think, people can just live with that or soldier through it. So that's what inspired me to bring this collection together and create this anthology. And it's been phenomenal. Just reading it in the raw format and in terms of the manuscript gave me goosebumps.
That's great. And for our listeners, who are interested in this, you should know that this is hot off the press. And in fact, Kelly is currently in Australia, where you reside. And there's going to be a launch of the book in New York City as well, in a big event on very soon. And so when this podcast comes out, you'll have this reminder that this book is out there, and we'll have another debrief episode as well about the experience of launching the book in New York, because Julienne will be there. Yeah, this is really, kind of a very, very new thing. And I'm wondering, Kelly, how did you sort of decide on, and you mentioned a little bit about how you met the two of us, and, it's quite rightly, we did a workshop at which you attended, and we talked a little bit about your own story, and that sort of led us to collaborate on the book. So there's a chapter of this book that's by Julienne and me, but then there's many other chapters with many other authors. What was sort of your criteria in terms of getting people to contribute to this book?
Absolutely. So I wanted to reach out to people that had a story to share, and a story that would impact the world. The goal of my book is for my readers to read it and be encouraged to make a tangible difference, whether it's profound or subtle. And the stories that they bring to the forefront are things that are meant to give us that level of introspection and say, can I make a difference in this part of my life or the world? So that's what I was looking for.
Got it. Yeah. And what do you hope people will be inspired to do, perhaps, as a result of reading this book?
So I've already sent this book out to a cohort for feedback before publication, and the results have been amazing. So I think it's on par, and what I'm hoping is that it will challenge thinking, ignite those robust conversations, and steer people in a direction to actually make tangible, sustained change, mainly with policies and on an international level, but also with behavior within the community and within the self.
And around, I mean, I know that, having been involved with this project, a lot of this has to do with mental health. And is that what sort of what you're also looking to, and when you talk about, changing policies and things like that, is that what you're thinking about?
So I'm thinking, I have a lot of networks, and the authors are from both, developed and developing worlds. So my thinking is to also bridge the gap with where we have, deficiencies in terms of how we deliver certain services. And it is, yes, with mental health, domestic violence, disability, and suicide prevention. Between these two worlds, there's a huge gap.
Yeah. And what's really striking to me is that in order to affect those changes, you're coming out with these stories that are not, as far as I can tell, they are not telling anyone what to do or how to do it. They're coming from a personal experience, as you said, lived experience perspective. And in our experience, and I think this is really what brought us all together here, and the other authors in this book, and your work in general, is that that's what we really believe as well, is that in order to impact or make a contribution that's positive and actually see a change in a community, you really have to come from that perspective of lived experience and tell that story as a way of then creating the incentive for people to kind of see themselves in your own story, right? So I've read this lived experience and now I see myself in it. So now I want to do something about it. And to me, having been part of this project, that's really what I'm hoping as well, is that people will relate to these lived experiences in such a way that they'll be empowered to, as you say, change behavior, but perhaps even go to their local policymaker and say, hey, you should read this story, and because this happened to me as well. And this is happening to my broader community, and we need to do something about this. So I love that you're using the power of storytelling to have that impact rather than, be the person on the soapbox who's telling people what to do.
Absolutely, yes. It's using that story to shed light on the human experience. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the thoughts that came to mind when I'm listening to you and when I'm reading the book is the courage. When I read the book about so many of the stories of how women were very honest and forthright about the big and small things that happened to them and what incentivized them to make the change and what they had to do. And I think that's going to be the power when somebody hears the story or they get to read the book, that if these people could raise their voice, I can maybe make a difference in my life or my family's life and have the courage and use that. But I think this is a start of something much, much bigger. And you as a publisher were very generous. You didn't lay down a lot of mandates of must do, should do. You had a very clear format, and then you let us share our voices, which is the power of storytelling.
Absolutely. And, just the impact within the community of authors has been amazing. I've had incredible feedback, from people. Just being part of that community has opened up new avenues for them to network, but also to see how, we can lift each other and bring awareness. Also, from the stories that they shared, they're getting this wider empathy, but also the opportunity to be open and talk about, the struggles. So I'm finding that the authors are reaching out to me and sharing the level of distress, whereas in the past, they probably thought nobody has gone through this and they have to soldier on their own. So now they are seeing that collective picture, and it's giving them hope to actually say, this is normal. Let's get together and discuss this. Let's find a way.
Yeah. Can you share with us, if that's okay, Kelly, a little bit for our listeners, because we're kind of talking about the book and the concept and what we'd like for people to be inspired by, et cetera. And I'm curious, Kelly, if maybe you could share with us an example of such a story where, without necessarily going into all the details, but of such a story that has sort of inspired you and or perhaps inspired people in your community that you know of.
Absolutely. So I think every chapter in this book has inspired me in a profound way. And when I read one of the chapters from a mom in the developing world, at the end of the chapter, I was literally in tears. And just thinking about it now chokes me up, because she's got 2 disabled kids and living in a community that had no support. They don't have the likes of NDIS that we have in Australia, that actually supports disability and gives you hope. And in the environment that she comes from, or the cultural background that she comes from, disability is considered to be something like a curse. They think, you are cursed, or you've done something in your life or in the past life. So she's shunned upon. And when I was reading that, just the burden of it just, engulfed me. And I was thinking, even for these kids, they have the unfair shake, but they don't have any glimpse of future. Where else in the developed world we have, the Olympics and all that for those that are disabled, and we give them opportunities, we give them hope. Where else in other parts of the world people are saying to the mother, I think you should kill these children.
Mm.
That in itself was just mind-boggling to me. And I was like, we need awareness. We need people to wake up. We need people to actually give, everyone the same opportunity. Doesn't matter which country they are born in. So that's one part that was more I was moved by. But every story has impacted me. The other one is one of the authors that's grappling with depression reached out to me as well, saying, she's got her own branding and trying to move forward, but struggling with all of that. And again, just reaching out for hope, because quite often when people are going through this, when they're living in the limelight, people seem to think they have everything together, they know what they're doing, they don't need that moral support or someone to be courteous. That's when people need it the most.
Mm. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so
Yeah.
true. You're breaking what's accepted, and you're separating yourself in the mix and showing a mirror, and that creates quite a lot of emotions and reactions sometimes. So having the support group within the writer group, even though we're virtual and at a distance, will make a difference. Supporting our fellow writers working through this.
Yeah. And I love these examples that you gave, Kelly, because they really speak to what you were talking about earlier. There's really nothing really compares with that lived experience of a single individual when you're trying to understand an issue. And so if we take the issue of disability, and how we treat people with disabilities, depending on which culture we're in, background, socioeconomic, et cetera, we can talk about things, and solutions and problems and solutions to those problems. But it's interesting. We had someone who advocates for people with disability, and she herself, her daughter, is nonverbal, and has made these incredible strides here in the US. And it's within the context of a society that has developed many, many tools and resources for parents of people with disabilities and people with disabilities. And yet she still has to advocate for more because it's not enough. And here's a story that you just told us about where there's nothing, zero. In fact, it's the opposite, right? There's so much just discrimination against people with disabilities. And but it doesn't mean that someone who's in the US, like Julienne and I are, in a quote unquote more advanced society, when you read, if you are familiar with that experience and you read such a story, it'll hit you just the same. And it'll still make you want to. It's interesting. I mean, I'd love to send the book actually to that person who was on our podcast, because I'm sure it'll encourage her to redouble her efforts, even though she's achieved a lot for her daughter and people with disabilities. But it's never enough. And I think there's never enough of these kinds of stories as well. Those lived experiences, that's what allows us to move forward, either to be grateful for what we have, and also to see what more we need to do. So I think, I'm now I'm on my soapbox to say how great this book is and these narratives are. But it truly is a very powerful tool, and I really hope that people, go out and get this book and be inspired and make a change, because as you said, there's many, many different examples of stories for different backgrounds, leading, different kind of subjects as well.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of the backfill. I had no idea of this author, and she was introduced to me because of the platform that I offer to write and bring these unheard voices. And because of this platform, it unraveled, and who knows where it can go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're going towards the end of the of the interview here, but there's a question I really want to hit on, because we asked this of all of our guests, and that is, Kelly, could you tell us about an experience that has shaped who you are today, continues to influence you and inform your work?
Absolutely. So I think all my lived experience has created Kelly Markey and brought me
Mm,
to where I am. There's been some, valley moments and mountaintop moments, but by far the most substantial would be losing my brother to suicide, which was something I never saw coming, and I'm still grappling with the aftermath. I think that experience, I could never go back to being who I was after that has hit me. And it's given me the zeal to actually take my mission on steroids and advocate for a better world.
mm. Yeah, amazing. And I remember when we worked a little bit together, and that was the story that came up as well in our conversations. And again, I just want to commend you, for putting that story out there, that part of yourself out there, and in a way that's very vulnerable and honest. You're very transparent about that experience, and this book to me is a reflection of all your work because you've inspired so many other people to discuss whatever issues they have, whatever those things were for them that have shaped who they are today. And so I knew asking you this question that's probably what would come up, but it's also, I think, an inspiration for other people to think about that, think about those things that have shaped who you are today. And you're not someone, Kelly, who strikes me as shying away from that kind of elephant in the room, right? Many people I know would probably try to, move that a little bit or make that more private, or just and of course it's everyone's prerogative how you react to something like that. But for you, it was really important to put that story out there and try to make a change. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I think the fact that people relate to the experience of what I share, my book and my work, it also brings them out of the shell, because I had one of the authors in this book, The Echoes of Humanity, who shared her chapter. And then she said to me after she sent me the manuscript, I've never shared this with the soul. And now
Mm,
I'm publishing it in a book. And when I read her chapter, I knew why. And I was like, wow, yes, she's looking at the example, and she knows that, humanity can uh, glean something out of her experience.
yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
Julianne,
because
any questions or
I, I
reflections?
I have, because weeks ago when we spoke, Kelly, I mentioned in my community, there's a park now, that there's a section that's dedicated to people who have committed suicide. It's a beautiful garden with a bench reflection. And I find that that's an interesting juxtaposition to also the work you're doing. You're giving somebody a place to go and acknowledge what happened to them. And it didn't just happen to one person, it happened to their family and their friends and everyone around them. So you too are giving a space and a place for someone to visit and to start to talk and take care of themselves, and then take care of others in the process. So I think that's something to really just acknowledge and appreciate. So
Mm,
no,
Thank you.
never the perfect words or phrases, but just to say that's the most important gift you've given to everybody. You took your pain and made it your purpose.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and there will be a second part to this because the event is going to be happening after we publish this episode, and then Julianne will have an episode where we can actually hear how it was because you'll be there,
Yes,
and
yes.
we'll give the benefit of that to our listeners as well. But maybe before we go, I know we've talked a lot about this particular book, Echoes of Humanity, and the event that's coming up, but is there anything that you would want to leave with our listeners, Kelly? Any resources or things that you would like people to go and check out?
Absolutely. So, like you mentioned at the intro, my book, The Life of Jayandra, which shines a light on the taboo topic of suicide, highlights prevention, and that's going to be showcased in Times Square on the 6th of September. So if any of your listeners are around, they can reach out. The link to view that online as well is on my website. Also, the details for our launch and our Beacon of Hope event in New York on the 31st is on my website, which is kellymarkey.com. So tickets are available via my website as well.
Great and wonderful. I mean, what an amazing achievement, just to have something on Times Square, and then to have this event as well. And it's not just one book, but two books. It really, I'm very impressed by your journey, Kelly, and what you've been able to do. And I really look forward to what's next. I think it's going to be pretty powerful stuff. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if you want to learn more, you can certainly look at today's episode notes, and we'll have links where we have links to all of these websites and resources that Kelly just mentioned. If you want to learn more about narrative and what we do in terms of helping people find, craft, and tell stories in any setting, you can certainly check out our website, narrative.com, NARATIV.com. Consider enrolling yourself and or your team in our group and one-on-one training programs. And we're always ready to listen to you. And of course, thank you for listening. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Check out our YouTube as well. This all drives word of mouth and gives more and more people the resources and best practices that we discuss here on this podcast. Thanks, Julienne, for making the connection with Kelly in the first place, and for being here as always.
And remember, the lesson in all this is the power of listening and being present for someone else. So thank you, Kelly. I'll see you next week. And looking forward to spending some quality time with you in the next 2 weeks and reporting back to all of you. So until then.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks for listening. All right, until next time. Bye, everyone.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.